Acts 21, Paul does a purification ritual, and the offering would be made for each of them. So he's trying to avoid any trouble. Acts 21:33, the commander came up and arrested him and ordered him to be bound with 2 chains. Then he asked who he was and what he had done. Some in the crowd shouted one thing and some another. Arrest him, bind him with 2 chains. Who is he? What has he done? Some said one thing, some said another. And since the commander could not get at the truth because of the uproar, he ordered that Paul be taken into the barracks. What's the truth? What is the truth? Take him into the barracks, says the commander, because there's such an uproar. Go to the barracks. I think that's where military people live. When Paul reached the steps, the violence of the mob was so great he had to be carried by the soldiers. So the mob was so great, get rid of him. He had to be carried on the shoulders of the soldiers. He had to be carried, not the shoulders, but just carried. The crowd that followed kept shouting, get rid of him. As the soldiers were about to take Paul into the barracks, he asked the commander, may I say something to you? Do you speak Greek? He replied. Aren't you the Egyptian that started a revolt and led 4,000 terrorists out into the wilderness some time ago? Aren't you the Egyptian who led 4,000 terrorists out into the wilderness? I am a Jew from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen of no ordinary city. Please let me speak to the people. Paul is a Jew from Tarsus, which is no ordinary city. May I speak to the people? Acts 21:40. After receiving the commander's permission, Paul said on the steps, okay, you can talk. That's the commander. Paul stood on the steps and motioned to the crowd. When they were all silent, he said to them in Aramaic, brothers and sisters, listen now to my defense. When they heard him speak to them in Aramaic, they became very quiet. Then Paul said, I am a Jew born in Tarsus of Cilicia and brought up in the city. So I fast forwarded, I didn't draw this out, but Acts 22:14. Then he, Ananias, said, the goal of, I think it's just this testimony up here. So Ananias said, the God of our ancestors has chosen you to know his will and to see the righteous one and to hear words from his mouth. God has chosen you to see and hear the words from his mouth, to see the righteous one and to hear words from his mouth. You will be his witness to all people of what they have seen and heard. What I have seen and heard will be a witness to all people, what Paul says. And now, what are you waiting for? Get up, be baptized, and wash your sins away, calling on his name. Get up, be baptized, wash your sins away, calling his name. Acts 22:17. When I returned to Jerusalem and was praying at the temple, I fell into a trance and saw the Lord speaking to me. Temple at Jerusalem, fell into a trance and saw the Lord speaking to him. Quick, leave Jerusalem immediately, because the people here will not accept your testimony about him. Leave quickly. The people from Jerusalem will not hear your testimony. Lord, I replied, these people know that I went from one synagogue to another to imprison and beat those who believe in you. And when the blood of your martyr Stephen was shed, I stood there giving my approval and guarding the clothes of those who were killing him. I went from one synagogue to another and beat and imprisoned the believers. And the blood of Stephen was shed. I stood there giving my approval and guarding the clothes of those who were killing him. So the Christian Stephen was the first martyr. He died, and Paul approved. But God turned him around. Then the Lord said to me, "Go, I will send you far away to the Gentiles." Go. The crowd listened to Paul until he said this. Then they raised their voice and shouted, "Rid the earth of him. He's not fit to live." They tore off their clothes and threw dust in the air.